I'm here with Maria de Palacio with GAWA Capital. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Maria de Palacio. I'm CFO and CEO at GAWA Capital, an impact investing management company in Spain.
Tell me about that moment in your career when you realized you wanted to shift things towards making an impact.
Sure. I started my career in consultancy, but I've always been very interested in international relations and contributing to the world in general. I think I had a public service vocation, and that's why I also spent a long time in the CNMV, which is the Spanish regulator. But throughout that time, I realized that I wanted to go a bit further. I learned from GAWA Capital and impact investing through different events and conferences where I got to see Agustin, which is one of my co-CEOs. And well, in 2019, I got a call from them and I was really interested in the project. And when I got to know them personally, it was a no-brain. It's a very beautiful project with an amazing team. Changing from investor protection to impact investing was quite a big change for me. And I realized that was where I wanted to be.
Tell me about the good you're trying to make in the world with GAWA Capital.
Well, GAWA Capital, we're focused, apart from investing through impact, we're also very keen on liaising with private and public institutions in order to guarantee that the private capital reaches the impact investing. And through blended finance, and our alliances and our partners in the public and private sector, we've been able to reach the most vulnerable communities in Latin America mainly, but also in Asia and Africa. And this would have never been possible without public investors and the catalytic capital, which helps attract all the private capital. And on the other side, we're focused on transformation through technical assistance. We have a technical assistance fund from the European Commission, and we're responsible for managing those funds and reaching the final beneficiaries and involving the investees in certain projects, also in risk management projects for the companies, developing different products in order for them to access the smallholder farmers that would not have access to finance. We also develop other projects for agriculture in order to implement certain projects in terms of climate resilience and adaptation.
So, for someone who hasn't heard of technical assistance before, can you explain what that is and why doesn't everybody do that? How is that a differentiator for you?
To make it simple, what an impact investing firm usually does is just invest in an entity in order to get impact, measure that impact, and also get some return. In our case, technical assistance funds are in addition to the investment. So it's a different source of funds and they are not returned. So those funds are dedicated to these projects in order to develop the objectives that we have from an impact perspective. So it's quite a big deal there and a change versus a normal and standard impact investing.
Can you give me an example of how GAWA Capital is making an impact?
Yeah, I could talk about many examples right now. We're very happy with the project that we're launching from our TA team, which is dedicated to climate adaptation. We'll have to choose all the implementing partners and consultants that will help that entity develop certain projects. For example, in order to provide products and also to develop the project of the final beneficiaries, the smallholder farmers, might need, for example, solar pump projects that have to be financed. For example, hydrogel that they are developing in order for those smallholder farmers to include them in their farms so that it's used as a retainer of water and nutrients. So in case there's not enough rains in the area, they can really manage their adaptation to these changes in climate. It's quite an interesting project because we're not only helping the company from an organizational perspective, but also helping them develop this kind of projects that will help the smallholder farmers adapt to climate change.
Where does GAWA Capital fit in sort of the ecosystem in Spain? Sounds like you're one of the first, one of the largest. What's your take on the market in Spain for impact investing?
GAWA Capital is one of the main impact investing firms in Spain and one of the few that invests outside of Spain. Well, and outside of Europe too. We're focused on developing countries, and that is not usual. And on the other side, we're really involved in the Spain NAP, for example. Agustin is part of the of Spain NAP, which is the Spanish representative of the GSG in Spain. And we're also part of different initiatives, associations, and communities in impact investing in Spain in order to encourage investors to reach that impact investing sector. It's true that in terms of size, in size of funds, in the impact investing ecosystem in Spain, we're one of the biggest alternative investment funds. We currently have the 120 million fund, taking into account the private investors and also the Spanish Development Agency with the help of Cofides and European Commission. Not many other funds have this kind of public investors. And furthermore, we're launching a new fund, which is Qualifund, where we will have the Green Climate Fund investing in the fund. And that is also quite a big deal because it differentiates GAWA from other funds in the ecosystem. And the Green Climate Fund doesn't usually invest in private funds. They'll be investing 25 million first loss tranche together with the European Commission, which will also be investing another 12 million first loss tranche. It's quite a specific partnership, which is not very common.
What does an ideal customer for GAWA Capital look like, or ideal investor look like for you?
Well, it has evolved. I must say that our investors, when we launched our first fund, mainly it was religious institutions that invested in this kind of funds because we were investing in mainly in Latin America, and they're very present on those areas and geographies. But as we launched Uruma, which was quite a bigger fund, we got institutional investors, insurance companies, and also the first investments of the public investors I mentioned through the European Commission's first loss tranche, Cofides, and the Spanish Development Agency. These are the main investors, but we also have some private investors through different wealth managers.
If I was a potential investor, why would I choose GAWA over other options?
I think that the main reason why you would choose GAWA in our funds is we're addressing our investments. We're reaching the most vulnerable communities in the world. And through the investments, mainly in microfinance institutions, we provide access to finance to population that didn't have any access to that before. We were associated more to the SDG 1, which is ending poverty. And I guess that that is the main reason why you would decide to invest in GAWA Capital rather than another fund. But it's also for other investors that might not have such a high risk profile and find that this blended finance structure provides them with some security, and the first loss tranches would provide them assurance in this kind of investment.
How would you describe the business model for GAWA? Do you have anything unique with your compensation model? Tell me about how that's set up.
In terms of fees, we've got some management fees as any other fund, but we do have the carried interest totally related to the impact that we're generating. There's a direct relationship between what we say and what we receive because our main focus is on impact. Our return in terms of carried interest is completely subject to the impact.
In the case if you don't make the impact you say you will, what do you do with your carried interest? How does that work?
There's a specific calculation. For example, in the case of our current fund, there's a hurdle rate in which the carried interest won't be applicable until that hurdle rate is reached. Once that hurdle rate is reached, there's a calculation from one side in terms of financial return and on the other side in terms of the impact scoring of the portfolio. So until the end of the fund, this calculation of the carried interest won't be final. And this is quite important for us and it's associated with the objectives of the management and the whole team.
So it's a way to show that you actually put your money where your mouth is. You care about the impact you're making.
Exactly.
What are you most looking for right now?
Currently, what we're really looking forward to is encouraging all the private investments through blended finance structures. And we believe that is the way we would really make a change because it's the way that we can really get impact investment to thrive That is the reason why we partnered not only with the European Commission, but also with the GCF, which is a UN fund. And they will be another part of the first loss. And that is quite an important step for us because we will have different public players that will guarantee the access of the private investors to these funds. We will get another TA facility for this new fund, which will be bigger than the previous one. And we're really dedicated to encouraging this kind of projects also in the ecosystem because we believe systemic change is really important and it's meant to reach long term impact. If you only invest and get a certain measurement of the impact, you're not there for the long run. So I believe that's one of the main aspects in which we're focusing right now.
If someone was interested in learning more about one of your funds or about GAWA Capital, what's the best way for them to find you?
They could find us obviously at our webpage, but we've also got a specific webpage for Ruman and we'll be developing a specific one for Quali, which is in the process of fundraising right now. I would also encourage if they want to search in Google that there's OECD's development case study on Uruma, which is quite interesting. And there's another one on the Impact Investing Institute focused on Quali. I believe this is a very, very interesting reading for anyone that wants to know anything more about our funds.
Anything else you want to share before I let you go?
I think as a conclusion to what we've been discussing, both on the blended finance importance and the technical assistance, I think that we're strong believers of SDG 17. Although it's the last one, I think that alliances are really important in the ecosystem in order for impact investing to thrive. I would be really willing to get in contact with other players in the ecosystem, not only in Spain, but also internationally, because I think learning from each other is crucial. And this kind of podcasts are really good to get to that goal.
One of my soapboxes is just that so many of us are trying to tackle some of the world's biggest challenges, but we are trying to do it all by ourselves on our own little island. And we really need to share best practices, help each other out, be more collaborative if we're going to reach the SDGs. We do need this ecosystem. We do need collaboration because it is all for creating a better future for everyone.
Yeah, I think that is super important. I have a feeling that it is very important to get the different players in the ecosystem as well to collaborate because you have a lot of areas where you have small entrepreneurs or small businesses that are launching their projects on a social or environmental aspect. But if they could be in contact with bigger players, I think the synergies that we would get there would be huge. In fact, I'm really moved by a project that it's done by a foundation in Spain called Unlimited. And one of the projects they launched aims at getting all the entrepreneurs on the healthcare projects with Lilly, which is a very big company in the sector. And they get together to discuss and learn from each other. And I think that is a super huge idea. I believe that should be done worldwide.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights and perspective, and excited to see you continue to push forward with the good that you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. I hope to see you soon.